4:15 in the afternoon, February 3rd, 1944. 9 American airmen stand on a frozen runway in England, their breath-making clouds in the winter air. They count heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 men standing on the tarmac beside their aircraft, a B-17. Flying fortress they call Ruthless Ruth. Behind them, the bomber sits, silent smoke rising from damaged engines, bullet holes stitched across the aluminum skin like surgical scars. 9 men standing. 10 men took off this morning. Lieutenant Robert Daniels, the pilot, counts again. His hands are shaking, but not from the cold. 1, 2, 3. He counts his officers. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He counts the enlisted men. 9 total. Someone is missing. The question comes from Staff Sergeant Anthony Kowalski, the engineer. His voice cuts through the wind. Where's Richardson's silence? The kind of silence that feels heavy, that presses down on your chest. The aircraft ticks and creaks as hot metal meets cold English air. Fuel drips somewhere underneath, making dark spots on the concrete. Nobody moves. Where's Richardson? Kowalski asks again, louder this time. Nobody knows. Daniels turns to look at the tail section of the aircraft 35 feet behind them. Small windows of plexiglass, some shattered, now some intact. He cannot see inside from this angle, cannot see if anyone is there. The intercom was dead for most of the mission. Battle damage, he assumed. Communications go out all the time. He had called back to the tail position twice during the flight home. Tail gunner status report. Silence both times. He assumed Richardson was maintaining radio silence, conserving oxygen, doing his job the way he always did. But Richardson always climbs out with the rest of them. Always. First one in, last one out. That's the tail gunner's way. You crawl back there before anyone else, and you don't leave until everyone else is safe. Richardson isn't standing with them, Jensen Daniels says. His voice sounds strange to his own ears. Jensen Kowalski, go check the tail. The 2 men move toward the aircraft. Staff Sergeant Martin Jensen, the ball turret gunner, climbs through the waist door first. He is small, 5'4", the only size that fits in a ball turret. He moves through the fuselage toward the tail. Kowalski follows but waits at the waist position. The tunnel to the tail is narrow. Only 1 man can crawl through at a time. The rest of the crew stands outside waiting. The wind picks up. Someone lights a cigarette. Nobody speaks. Inside the aircraft, Jensen crawls through the tunnel, 26 inches in diameter. Oxygen bottles mounted on the walls. Ammunition cans. Debris from 8 hours of combat. Spent shell casings that roll under his hands. The smell of cordite and hydraulic fluid, and something else, something cold and metallic that he cannot quite identify. He reaches the tail compartment. At first, he thinks Richardson is sleeping, slumped in his seat, hands resting on the gun controls, facing aft toward the empty sky. His eyes are half open the way they get when you're tired, when you've been at altitude too long, and the oxygen makes you drowsy. His flight jacket is covered in frost. Ice crystals sparkle on the leather in the dim light filtering through the shattered plexiglass. Elmer, Jensen says. His voice sounds tentative, uncertain. Hey, Elmer, we're home. No response. Richardson doesn't move, doesn't blink, doesn't breathe. Jensen reaches out, touches Richardson's shoulder. His hand recoils instantly. The body is frozen solid. Not cold like touching ice cream. Cold like touching metal that's been in a freezer. Rigid, unnaturally hard. The flight jacket crackles under Jensen's fingers, frost breaking loose in small crystals. Richardson's hands are locked around the gun controls, fingers curved as if he's still aiming, still tracking targets that disappeared hours ago. Oh God, Jensen whispers. Oh Jesus Christ. He backs out of the tail compartment. Moving too fast, nearly falls. Crawls through the tunnel faster than he came in, not caring about the shell casings cutting his hands, not caring about anything except getting away from that frozen figure in the tail. He emerges into the waist section. Kowalski takes one look at his face and knows. Well, Kowalski asks, but he already knows the answer. He's dead, Jensen says. The words come out in a whisper. He's dead. He's been dead. He's frozen solid. Kowalski stares at him. What? He's frozen to his guns, Jensen says louder now, his voice cracking. Ice on his uniform. He's been dead for hours. They climb out through the waist door, stand on the tarmac. The other 7 men look at them. Waiting. He's dead, Jensen says to all of them. Richardson's dead. The words hang in the air. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. The wind blows. Somewhere across the airfield, another bomber lands, engines roaring. Daniels takes a step toward the aircraft, then stops. His face has gone pale. That's impossible, he says. We just flew 8 hours. He's frozen to his guns, Jensen repeats. Ice on his uniform. He's been dead for hours. Staff Sergeant Ralph Duca, one of the waist gunners, starts crying. Quiet at first, then louder. Staff Sergeant Peter Morrison turns away and vomits onto the tarmac. Kowalski slams his fist into the fuselage, once, twice, the metal booming hollow under his knuckles. God damn it, he shouts. God damn it. Daniel stands very still. His lips move, but no sound comes out. Finally, he speaks, and his voice is hollow, empty. We didn't know. How could we know? The intercom was out. We thought he was just maintaining radio silence. We thought he was alive. But Elmer Richardson has been dead since 1:43 that afternoon. Dead for 4 hours and 22 minutes while his crew flew home. Dead while they crossed the German border. Dead while they descended through 20,000 feet of sky. Dead while they landed and taxied and shut down the engines. Dead the whole time, frozen at his post, hands still on his guns, eyes still open, still facing the enemy. 22 years old. Staff Sergeant Elmer G. Richardson, tail gunner from Topeka, Kansas. Dead at 30,000 feet in frozen darkness, while 9 men flew just 35 feet away and never knew. This is where our story truly begins. But to understand how Elmer Richardson came to die alone in the frozen tail of a bomber over Germany, we need to go back. Back to Kansas. Back to summer. Back to when the world was still warm and the war was still something that happened to other people in other places far away. Back to the garage. But before we continue, I need to ask you something. Many of you watching right now remember the B-17 Flying Fortress. Maybe you flew in one. Maybe your father did, or your grandfather. Maybe you heard stories growing up about the men who climbed into these aircraft every morning, knowing that 4 out of 10 never came home. The tail gunner position had the highest casualty rate of any station on the aircraft, 38%. If you sat in that glass bubble for 25 missions, you were beating impossible odds. If you served as a tail gunner, if you knew one, if someone in your family has stories about the 8th Air Force, please share them in the comments. These memories are disappearing. The men who lived them are disappearing. We need to preserve these stories. We need to remember. And please hit that like button. It helps us share stories like Elmer's with more people, stories about ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things, stories that need to be told. Now let's go back to Kansas. Back to the garage where Elmer Richardson learned about engines and duty and what it means to fix things that are broken. August heat in Kansas is not like heat anywhere else. It rises from the earth itself, thick and heavy, the kind of heat that makes the air shimmer over asphalt, that makes you taste copper on your tongue. The temperature at 2 in the afternoon reaches 97 degrees. No clouds, no wind, just sun pressing down on Topeka like a hammer on an anvil. Inside the garage on Kansas Avenue, Elmer Richardson lies under a 1936 Ford, the concrete floor cool against his back. Sweat runs down his temples. His hands are black with grease. The wrench in his right hand weighs 2 pounds, and he has been holding it at an awkward angle for the past 10 minutes, trying to reach a bolt that does not want to turn. Above him, the Ford's transmission drips oil. 1 drop every few seconds. Drip, drip, drip. The rhythm is almost soothing. The smell is what he will remember later when he is 30,000 feet above Germany and the temperature is 60 degrees below zero. He will remember the smell of motor oil and gasoline and sun-heated concrete. He will remember how the garage always smelled like his father, like work, like things being fixed. The bolt finally turns. Half an inch, another half inch. Elmer's shoulder burns from the angle, but he keeps pressure on the wrench. The bolt comes loose. He catches it before it falls, slips it into his pocket with 3 others, just like it. "That's my boy," a voice says from above. Elmer slides out from under the Ford. His father stands in the doorway, backlit by the afternoon sun. Harold Richardson, 52 years old, mechanic, veteran of the First World War, though he never talks about it. Tall and lean and quiet, the way men get when they've seen things they wish they could forget. "Almost done," Harold asks. "Another hour." Elmer says. He sits up, wipes his hands on a rag that used to be white, but is now the permanent gray of old grease. Maybe two. The transmission's worse than I thought. It usually is, Harold says. He walks to the workbench, picks up a socket wrench, examines it, puts it back exactly where it was. Want some water? Please. Harold goes to the small office at the back of the garage, returns with 2 glasses of water from the cooler. The ice is melting, but it is still cold enough to make the glass sweat. Elmer drinks half of his in one long swallow. They stand together in the garage, not talking, just being. This is their language. Not words, but shared work, shared space, shared understanding. Outside Kansas Avenue shimmers in the heat. A car drives past. Someone's radio plays Glenn Miller, the sound drifting through the open door. On the wall above the workbench, an American flag hangs next to a photograph. The photograph shows a younger Harold in a doughboy uniform standing with 3 other men in front of a trench somewhere in France. 1917 or 18 before Elmer was born. All 4 men in the photograph are smiling, but the smiles do not reach their eyes. Harold never talks about the war. Elmer knows better than to ask. Your mother called, Harold says. Wants us home by 6. She's making pot roast. Elmer nods. I'll be done by then. Good. Harold drains his water glass, sets it on the workbench. I'll be in the office if you need me. He walks away. His limp is barely noticeable now, 25 years after the shell fragment hit him at Belleau Wood, but Elmer can still see it, a slight hitch in his left leg. A reminder. Elmer slides back under the Ford, reaches for the next bolt. His hands know what to do without thinking. This is what he is good at. Fixing things, finding what is broken and making it work again. If it's got gears, I can fix it. That's what he tells people. It's not bragging, it's just true. He does not know that in 6 months, he will be trying to fix jammed machine guns with frozen fingers at 30,000 feet. He does not know that some things once broken cannot be fixed. He does not know that the heat he feels now, the Kansas summer heat that makes him sweat, will seem like a distant dream when he is dying of cold. Right now, in this moment, under this Ford, with his father in the office, and the radio playing swing music, and his mother waiting at home with pot roast, Elmer Richardson is 21 years old and the world makes sense. Problems have solutions. Engines can be fixed. Life is a series of bolts that need turning, and if you have the right wrench and enough patience, everything works out. The war is something that happens in newspapers. In Europe, in the Pacific, far away, not here, not in Kansas, not in this garage where the most important problem is a stubborn transmission bolt. But the war is coming closer every day. 6 o'clock, the Richardson house on Tyler Street, pot roast and potatoes and carrots, the smell filling the small kitchen. Martha Richardson, 48 years old school teacher, sets the table while Sarah Elmer's 16-year-old sister pours water into glasses. Harold washes his hands at the sink, scrubbing away the day's grease with Boraxo soap that smells like lemon and chemicals. Elmer sits at the table, clean now, wearing different clothes, his hair still damp from washing. He is thinking about Margaret. Margaret Collins, 20 years old. Red hair that catches the light like copper wire. Green eyes. A scatter of freckles across her nose that she hates but he loves. Secretary at City Hall. They met at a church social in the summer of 1941, before the war, before Pearl Harbor, before everything changed. She was wearing a yellow dress. He spilled punch on his shirt trying to talk to her. She laughed and the sound was like music and he was lost. They've been courting for 2 years now. Proper courting, the way you do things in Topeka. Church on Sundays. Walks in Gage Park. The movies on Saturday nights, sitting in the balcony of the Jayhawk Theater, her hand in his. Soda fountains. Sock hops. Normal things. Good things. The kind of things that make you believe the world is safe and predictable and fair. Last week he asked her to wait for him. They were sitting on her porch the August evening, finally cool after the heat of the day. Crickets singing in the grass. Fireflies blinking in the dark. He had been trying to find the words for an hour. I'm going to enlist, he said finally. She didn't look surprised. I know, she said. After I come back, he said. After the war's over, I was thinking maybe we could. He couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't say the word. Marriage. It felt too big, too important, too fragile a thing to speak out loud. But she understood. She always understood. I'll wait for you, she said, even if it takes 100 years. He kissed her then, and she tasted like the lemonade they had been drinking, sweet and cold. Now sitting at his mother's dinner table, he touches the pocket where he keeps her last letter. She writes to him every week even though he still lives in Topeka, even though they see each other twice a week at least. The letters are full of small things. What happened at work, what her mother said, what she saw on her walk home. Normal things, but every letter ends the same way: I'm waiting. Elmer, Martha says, and he realizes she has been talking to him. Are you listening? Sorry, Ma, I was thinking. About that Collins girl, Sarah says, grinning. She is 16 and relentless. Sarah, Martha says, but there is no real reproof in her voice. She knows about Margaret. She approves. Good family. Good girl. The kind of girl who will wait. Harold serves the pot roast. They eat. The conversation flows around Elmer. Sarah talks about school starting next month. Martha mentions that the church needs volunteers for the scrap metal drive. Harold says nothing, just eats the way he always does. Halfway through dinner, the radio in the living room plays the news. The announcer's voice drifts into the kitchen. Allied forces in Italy. Casualties mounting. Another bombing raid over Germany. The list of the dead read out like a grocery list, names and ranks and hometowns scrolling past, too fast to remember any single one. Harold reaches over and turns the radio off. They finish dinner in silence. Later, after the dishes are washed and put away, after Sarah goes upstairs to read, after Martha settles into her chair with her knitting, Harold and Elmer sit on the front porch. The night is finally cool. Stars are coming out. When Harold asks, end of the week, Elmer says, Friday, I'll take the train to Kansas City, then on to basic training. Harold nods. Doesn't speak for a long time. When he does, his voice is quiet. You know what you're getting into. Elmer thinks about this, thinks about the news reports and the casualty lists and the stories in the papers. No, he says honestly, not really. Good, Harold says. If you thought you knew, you'd be lying to yourself. Another long silence. An owl calls from somewhere down the street. I was 19, Harold says, when I went to France. Thought I knew what war was, thought it would be glorious. Parades and medals and coming home a hero. Was it? Harold laughs, but there is no humor in the sound. No, son, it wasn't. He stands up, puts his hand on Elmer's shoulder. Just once, heavy and warm. Do your duty, he says. Come home. That's all that matters. He goes inside, leaves Elmer sitting on the porch looking up at stars that will look the same from 30,000 feet above Germany, though he does not know this yet. Inside the house, Martha Richardson sits in her chair, knitting needles, clicking a steady rhythm. She is making a scarf, blue yarn, soft, for Elmer, for when he is cold. She does not know that the cold he will face cannot be defeated by any scarf, cannot be survived by any amount of wool. She does not know that the last letter she receives from him will mention the cold, will say that it makes his bones ache. But she will, soon enough, soon enough. December 1943, Las Vegas, Nevada, Army Air Forces Gunnery School. The classroom holds 40 men. They sit in wooden chairs that creak when you shift your weight, facing a blackboard covered in diagrams of aircraft and angles of attack. Outside, the Nevada desert stretches to the horizon under a sky so blue it hurts to look at. Inside, the air smells like chalk dust and cigarette smoke and the nervous sweat of men who know what's coming. Sergeant Major William Hawkins stands at the front of the room, 42 years old. North Africa veteran. A scar runs from his left temple to his jaw, white against tan skin. He got it at Kasserine Pass when a Messerschmitt strafing run tore through his bomber, and he was the only man in the West who survived. Now he trains gunners, teaches them how not to die. He picks up a piece of chalk, writes numbers on the blackboard. Large numbers, numbers that echo in the silent room. 38%, he says. His voice is flat, matter of fact, the way you talk about the weather or the price of eggs. That's the casualty rate for tail gunners in the 8th Air Force. 38% killed or severely wounded. 4 out of every 10 men who sit in that position don't come home. He turns to face them, makes eye contact with each man in the front row. Then the second row, then the third. You want to know why? Because the Germans aren't stupid. They know the tail gunner is the most dangerous man on the aircraft. You see them first. You shoot first. You're the last line of defense. So they target you every single time. They come in from behind and below, and they aim for that glass bubble you're sitting in, and they don't stop shooting until you stop shooting back. Nobody in the room moves. Nobody speaks. The tailgun compartment is 4 feet wide and 3 feet tall. Hawkins continues. You can't stand up. You can't turn around. You sit in that seat for 6, 7, 8 hours, sometimes longer. The temperature at altitude is 60 degrees below zero. Your oxygen comes through a tube. Your heat comes through a wire. If either one fails, you have minutes, not hours. Minutes, he pauses, lets that sink in. The intercom to the rest of the crew cuts out constantly. Battle damage, ice, system failures. When it goes out, you're alone back there. 35 feet from the nearest man on your crew, and you might as well be on the moon. Nobody can help you. Nobody can even see you. If something goes wrong, you fix it yourself, or you die trying. Elmer Richardson sits in the third row, 3 seats from the left. He is writing in a small notebook, the kind you can buy at the PX for 10 cents. He writes down everything. The numbers, the specifications, the warnings. If it's important enough to say, it's important enough to remember. That's what his father taught him. Hawkins walks down the center aisle, stops next to Elmer's row. Anyone want to reconsider, he asks. Transferred to waist gunner ball. Turret, top turret. Any position is safer than tail. This is your chance, no shame in it. Smart man knows his limits. 40 men in the room. Nobody moves. Nobody raises a hand. Hawkins nods. Good, then let's get to work. The next 6 weeks will be the hardest of Elmer Richardson's life. Harder than basic training. Harder than anything he's done before. They teach him how to field strip a 50 caliber Browning machine gun blindfolded. How to clear a jam in 5 seconds. How to lead a target at 400 yards. How to calculate deflection angles in your head while fighters are shooting at you, and your aircraft is bucking like a wild horse, and your hands are so cold you can't feel your fingers. They teach him about oxygen deprivation, about hypothermia, about frostbite and panic, and what happens to your body at 30,000 feet when systems fail. But there's one lesson that will matter more than all the others. One lesson that Elmer writes in his notebook and underlines twice. When you stop shivering, your body has given up trying to generate heat. You have maybe 10 minutes after that. He's writing instructions for his own death, though he doesn't know it yet. Week 4 of training, high-altitude survival course. They stand beside a metal trough filled with water and ice. 12 men in their underwear shivering in the December cold, even though they're still in Nevada, still on the ground, still safe. The instructors have put blocks of ice in the water. The temperature is 33 degrees, just above freezing. The exercise is simple. You get in the water, you stay in for 60 seconds, you get out. They time how long it takes before you stop shivering. The point is to teach you what hypothermia feels like, to recognize the stages, to know when your body is shutting down. Because at 30,000 feet in a damaged aircraft with no heat, you need to know how much time you have left. Elmer goes third, steps down into the trough. The water hits him like a physical blow. Every muscle in his body contracts. His breath comes in short gasps. His heart hammers against his ribs. Start counting, the instructor says. 1, 2, 3, the numbers march past. Elmer's legs are numb. His chest feels tight. 15, 20, his hands are curled into fists, nails digging into his palms. 30, 40, he cannot feel his feet anymore. 50, 55, his jaw is clenched so tight his teeth hurt. 60, time, get out. He climbs out of the trough, stands on the concrete. His whole body is shaking, violent shudders that he cannot control. The instructors wrap him in blankets, give him hot coffee. Time how long the shivering lasts. 14 minutes before he stops shaking. Good, the instructor says. That's normal. Your body is generating heat, fighting to warm itself. That's stage 1 hypothermia. Uncomfortable but survivable. He points to another trainee, a kid from Ohio who got out of the water 10 minutes ago and has stopped shivering. See him? That's stage 3. His core temperature has dropped below 90 degrees. His body has given up trying to generate heat. In a combat situation, he'd have maybe 10 minutes before unconsciousness, 20 before death. The kid from Ohio is smiling, looks peaceful, happy almost. The instructors rush him inside, force hot liquids down his throat, wrap him in heated blankets. Remember this, the instructor tells them. When you stop shivering, you're dying. You just don't know it yet. Elmer writes in his notebook, shivering stops equals dying starts. He doesn't know he's writing his own epitaph. Week 5, high-altitude training. The chamber is a steel cylinder 20 feet long and 8 feet in diameter. Portholes on the sides so observers can watch. Inside, metal benches line the walls. Oxygen masks hang from the ceiling. Pressure gauges and temperature monitors cover one bulkhead. 15 men file inside. Elmer is among them. They sit on the benches, put on oxygen masks. The door seals with a heavy clunk. The pumps start. You can hear them through the walls, a rhythmic whooshing that sounds like breathing. The pressure drops. Your ears pop, then pop again. The instructor's voice comes through a speaker. We're simulating 30,000 feet. Same pressure, same oxygen level you'll experience in combat. We're going to have each of you remove your oxygen mask for 1 minute. You'll experience hypoxia, oxygen deprivation. This is what it feels like when your oxygen system fails at altitude. They go alphabetically. Anderson first. He removes his mask, sits there. 10 seconds, 20. At 30 seconds, his movements become sluggish. At 40 seconds, he's smiling for no reason. At 50 seconds, his eyes are unfocused. At 60 seconds, the instructor tells him to put his mask back on. He tries. His hands don't work properly. He fumbles with the straps, finally gets it on, breathes deeply, his eyes focus again. I don't remember anything after 30 seconds, he says. Exactly, the instructor says. That's hypoxia. You lose cognitive function before you realize you're in danger. You won't know you're dying until you're already too far gone to save yourself. Richardson, you're next. Elmer removes his oxygen mask. The air tastes thin metallic. He breathes normally, feels fine, counts in his head, 1, 2, 3, still fine, 10, 15. His vision starts to narrow. Tunnel vision, they call it. The edges go dark. 20, 25. He feels warm, happy, like he's had a drink or two. The fear is gone. Everything is fine. Everything is wonderful. 30, 35. The instructor's voice sounds far away. Richardson, put your mask back on. He tries. His hands feel strange, disconnected, like they belong to someone else. He reaches for the mask, misses, tries again. His fingers are clumsy. The mask is right there, but he can't seem to grab it. Someone else puts it on him, straps it tight. He breathes oxygen. The warm, happy feeling fades. The tunnel vision clears. He can think again. How long, he asks. 52 seconds, the instructor says. You were 17 seconds from unconsciousness, 3 minutes from death, and you had no idea you were in danger. That euphoria you felt, that happiness, that's your brain dying. That's what hypoxia does. It kills you while making you think everything is fine. Elmer writes in his notebook, hypoxia equals peaceful death. Won't know it's happening. 45 to 60 seconds until unconscious. Later, when he is dying at 30,000 feet over Germany, he will experience exactly this. The euphoria, the warmth, the sense that everything is fine. And he will die thinking he's just resting for a minute, just closing his eyes. But that's in February. Right now, it's still December, and he's still alive, and he just scored the highest marks in his class on the firing range. January 1944. Grafton Underwood Air Base, Northamptonshire, England. The crossing from New York to Liverpool took 14 days. Troop ship, cramped quarters, rough seas. Elmer spent most of it seasick, lying in his bunk while the ship rolled and pitched. But now he's here. England. Winter gray skies and cold rain and mud everywhere. The war is real now, not something in newspapers. Real. You can hear it at night. Bombers taking off, bombers returning, sometimes fewer coming back than left. The 384th Bombardment Group. They fly B-17G model aircraft. Flying fortresses. The name sounds impressive until you see what flak and fighters can do to one. Then you realize it's not a fortress. It's an aluminum can with wings. Elmer reports to his assigned aircraft. Tail number 42-31333. Crew name painted on the nose, Ruthless Ruth. A cartoon woman holding a machine gun. Red lips, dangerous smile. The crew stands beside the aircraft. 10 men, Elmer makes 11. Lieutenant Robert Daniels, the pilot, is 24 years old. From Ohio, dark hair, steady eyes. He's flown 8 missions already. In the 8th Air Force, 8 missions makes you a veteran. He shakes Elmer's hand. Welcome to the luckiest crew in the group, Daniel says. We've flown more missions than any other crew in the squadron, and we're all still here. The co-pilot is Lieutenant James Parker. 23. Texas. Tall and rangy with a grin that comes easy. The navigator is Lieutenant Thomas Mitchell. 25. Oregon. Quiet, serious. Maps and charts are his language. The bombardier is Lieutenant Frank Weber. 24. Wisconsin. Nervous energy, fingers always moving. The enlisted men introduce themselves. Tech Sergeant Anthony Kowalski is the flight engineer and top turret gunner. 27 years old. Pennsylvania. Coal miner's son, shoulders like a bull. Radio operator is Tech Sergeant David Cole. 22. Illinois. Jazz musician before the war. Ball turret gunner is Staff Sergeant Martin Jensen. 20. Minnesota. 5'4", baby-faced. The only size that fits in that terrible rotating ball underneath the aircraft. The waist gunners are Staff Sergeant Peter Morrison from Texas and Staff Sergeant Ralph Duca from New York. Both young, both trying to look tough. They've flown 122 combined missions. According to statistics, 3 of them should already be dead. Kowalski puts his hand on Elmer's shoulder, heavy and warm. Don't worry about the odds, kid. We beat them every time. Elmer climbs into the tail section for the first time, crawls through the narrow fuselage tunnel, 35 feet from the waist to the tail. Oxygen bottles and ammunition cans line the walls. He reaches the tail compartment, 4 feet wide, 3 feet tall, a small seat, 250 caliber Browning machine guns and a hydraulic mounting, plexiglass windows on 3 sides, clear view behind and below, clear view of everything that wants to kill you. He sits in the seat, tests the hydraulic controls. The turret rotates smoothly. Up, down, left, right. The guns respond to the slightest pressure. He can see the whole sky behind the aircraft. Nothing between him and the enemy except a 1/4 inch of plexiglass. This is his station, his position, for the next however many missions it takes. This tiny glass bubble at the back of a bomber. The loneliest place in the sky. He climbs back out, returns to the crew. How is it, Daniels asks, Small Elmer says. They all laugh. It's not a happy laugh. January 10th, 1944. Target Kiel, Germany. Naval shipyards. Briefing at 0600. Mission takeoff at 0930. Return estimated at 1700 hours. 8-hour mission. Temperature at altitude 58 degrees below zero. Elmer barely sleeps the night before. Lies in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. The other men in the barracks are quiet. Nobody talks before a mission. Some write letters, some pray. Some just lie there thinking about home. At 0800 they suit up. Heated flying suit over regular uniform. Mae West life preserver, parachute harness, flak vest, leather helmet, oxygen mask, gloves. The gear weighs 40 pounds. You waddle more than walk. They board the aircraft at 0900. Elmer crawls to the tail, plugs in his heated suit. Green light. Plugs in his oxygen mask. Green light. Loads ammunition belts into both guns. 800 rounds. 400 per gun. Checks the hydraulic system. Working. Checks the intercom. Tail gunner check in. Tail gunner ready. Roger. 0930. Engines start. 4 right are 1820 engines. 1,200 horsepower each. The sound is deafening even with the helmet on. The aircraft vibrates, everything rattles. 0940, takeoff roll. The runway rushes past, faster, faster. The tail lifts. The whole aircraft lifts. Airborne, gear up, climb to formation altitude. England disappears below. Patchwork fields, villages, roads like threads. The formation assembles. 36 bombers in a combat box. 3 squadrons, each bomber 50 feet from the next. Close enough to provide mutual defensive fire. Close enough to see the men in the other aircraft. Close enough to see them die. They climb to 28,000 feet. The temperature drops. 0 degrees at 10,000 feet. 20 below at 15,000, 40 below at 20,000, 58 below at altitude. Even with the heated suit, Elmer's toes go numb. His fingers ache. The Dutch coast passes beneath. Enemy territory now. Fighters at 3 o'clock high, someone calls over the intercom. Elmer scans his sector, behind and below. Empty sky, blue and cold and empty. The mission to kill takes 6 hours. They drop their bombs through cloud cover. Never see the target, never see the results. Just fly straight and level while flak bursts around them. Black puffs of smoke, each one deadly, each one close enough to hear the explosions even over the engine noise. No fighters attack from behind. Elmer never fires his guns, just sits there, watching, freezing, terrified. They land at 1600 hours. Elmer climbs out of the aircraft. His legs shake. He makes it 10 feet from the bomber before he vomits onto the tarmac. Jensen, the ball turret gunner, walks over, puts a hand on Elmer's shoulder. First time's always the worst, he says. Does it get easier? No. You just get used to being scared. That night in the mess hall, they drink coffee. Maxwell House, hot and black. Smoke Lucky Strike cigarettes. The crew sits together at one table. Nobody talks about the mission. They talk about baseball, about girls, about anything except what they just did. This is their ritual. After every mission, coffee and cigarettes and pretending everything is normal. Kowalski pulls out a harmonica, plays You Are My Sunshine. Off-key but heartfelt. The mess hall goes quiet. Other crews listen. When he finishes, someone starts clapping. Then everyone is clapping. This is what they are fighting for. Not territory, not politics. This, brotherhood, coffee and cigarettes and harmonicas playing off-key. The simple human warmth of men who understand that tomorrow they might die, but tonight they are alive and together. Elmer writes a letter to his mother that night, tells her he's fine, tells her England is cold but not too cold, doesn't mention the mission, doesn't mention the fear, just writes about the crew, about how they take care of each other, about how he feels safe with them. It's the kind of lie that sons tell mothers, the kind of lie that lets mothers sleep at night. He seals the envelope, writes the address in careful block letters. Mrs. Martha Richardson, Tyler Street, Topeka, Kansas. 16 more missions to go. Then he can go home. He'll complete 17. February 2nd, 1944. Evening. The day before Brunswick. The officers' club smells like cigarette smoke and whiskey and the particular tension that comes before a difficult mission. 4 men sit at a corner table. Lieutenant Daniels, Lieutenant Parker, Lieutenant Mitchell, Lieutenant Weber, the officers of Ruthless Ruth. They are not celebrating. They are preparing themselves for tomorrow in the way that men prepare themselves for the possibility of death, with alcohol and dark humor and the careful avoidance of anything too real. Mitchell spreads a map on the table. His navigator's hands trace the route. England to the Dutch coast, across occupied Holland, deep into Germany, Brunswick, 600 miles round trip. The red line on the map looks simple. 2 dimensions, flat, clean. It does not show the flak batteries, the fighter bases, the 300 miles they will fly without fighter escort, the fact that they will be alone over the most heavily defended industrial target in northern Germany. Deep penetration, Mitchell says quietly. His finger rests on Brunswick. Ball-bearing factories. If we destroy them, the war ends 6 months sooner. Every tank, every aircraft, every piece of German machinery needs ball bearings. This is the target that matters. If we make it there, Weber says. The bombardier's hands shake slightly as he lights another cigarette. Intelligence says 80 to 100 fighters will intercept us. Maybe more. We'll make it, Daniel says. His voice is steady, confident. The voice of a pilot who has brought his crew home 8 times already. We always make it. Parker laughs. Not because anything is funny, just because sometimes you laugh or you scream and laughing is more acceptable in an officer's club. He drains his whiskey, signals for another. They don't talk about the numbers. The fact that 10 to 15% losses are expected. The fact that out of 36 aircraft from their group, 3 or 4 will not return. 30 or 40 men dead or captured. They don't talk about it because talking about it makes it real in a way that maps and mission briefings somehow don't. Instead, they talk about baseball, about whether the Yankees will win the pennant again, about Parker's girl back in Texas who writes him letters that smell like perfume, about Mitchell's plan to become a teacher after the war, about normal things, future things, things that assume there will be an after. At 2200 hours, they leave the club, walk across the dark airfield to their quarters. Overhead, the stars are sharp and cold. Somewhere in the distance, bombers are returning from a night mission. The sound of engines, always the sound of engines. Daniel stops, looks back toward the flight line where Ruthless Ruth sits in the darkness. Tomorrow she will carry them to Brunswick and back. Or not back. Either way, she will carry them. See you at briefing, he says to the others. Get some sleep. None of them will sleep well. In the barracks, the enlisted men prepare in their own way. Kowalski sits on his bunk writing a letter to his wife in Pennsylvania. He writes the same letter before every mission. 3 pages, tells her about the crew, about the food, about the weather. Never mentions that tomorrow he might die. Never mentions the fear. At the end, always the same words, I love you, I'll see you soon. He signs it and seals it and addresses it and hopes he won't need to mail it. If something happens to him, the Red Cross will send it. If he survives, he'll tear it up and write a new one for the next mission. Jensen cleans his guns, the twin .50 calibers from the ball and turret, disassembles them completely, wipes down every part, oils them, reassembles them, tests the action, does it again and again. His hands move automatically. The ritual calms him, metal and oil and the solid reality of machinery, things that make sense, things that work if you maintain them properly. Morrison and Duca play cards, 5-card stud, betting cigarettes. Neither one cares who wins. The game is just something to do with their hands, something to keep their minds occupied. Cole lies on his bunk with his eyes closed, listening to music only he can hear. Jazz, Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington, the music he used to play before the war. He moves his fingers on an invisible piano playing along with the songs in his head. Elmer Richardson sits at the small table near the window writing. His notebook is open. Inside 17 pages, 1 page for each mission. At the top of each page a date. Below that notes what happened, what he saw, what he learned. The last page is dated January 31st. Mission 16. The page for Mission 17 is blank except for tomorrow's date, February 3rd, 1944. He writes Brunswick. Ball-bearing factories. Deep penetration. Expected heavy resistance. Then he stops, stares at the blank space below. What else is there to write? He doesn't know what will happen tomorrow. Nobody does. The page might stay mostly blank, or it might fill with details about fighters and flak and men dying. Or it might be the last page, the last thing he ever writes. Hey, Richardson, Kowalski calls from his bunk. You scared about tomorrow? Elmer looks up, every time he says honestly. But the job needs doing. Kowalski nods. That's the right answer, kid. You're going to be fine. But neither of them knows if that's true. Elmer closes the notebook, reaches into his pocket, pulls out 2 items. A letter from Margaret received 3 days ago, and a blue scarf she knitted for him. Soft wool, Kansas blue. He holds them both, these talismans from home, these reminders of why he's here and what he's fighting for. The letter is 4 pages long. She writes about work at City Hall, about his mother and father, about the snow that fell last week, about how she thinks of him every morning and every night, about how she's waiting. The last line says, "Come home safe. I love you. I'm counting the days." He reads it again, even though he has it memorized. Then he folds it, carefully puts it back in his pocket next to the scarf. His ritual. Every mission. Read her letter. Touch the scarf. Remember why you're doing this. He takes out one more thing. A St. Christopher medal on a chain. His mother gave it to him the day he left for training. St. Christopher, patron, saint of travelers. Protect my son, she had said, pressing it into his hand. Bring him home safe. He puts the chain around his neck, tucks the medal under his shirt, can feel it there warm against his skin. Then he writes one more line in his notebook. If I don't come back, Ma, you'll know I tried. Closes the notebook, turns off the light. Outside, the wind blows across the airfield. Cold February wind. English wind. Nothing like Kansas wind, but wind all the same. Somewhere a door bangs, somewhere a dog barks. Normal sounds, the sounds of the world continuing as if tomorrow is just another day. For most people, it is just another day. For the crew of Ruthless Ruth, tomorrow is Brunswick. February 3rd, 1944. 600 hours. The briefing room is packed. 400 airmen, 40 crews. They fill every chair stand along the walls, sit on the floor in front. The room smells like coffee and cigarettes and nervous sweat. Nobody talks. They all stare at the front of the room where a curtain covers the wall map. Behind that curtain is today's target. Behind that curtain is where some of them will die. Colonel Julius Lacey, the group commander, enters. Everyone stands. He waves them back down, walks to the front, grabs the curtain cord. "Gentlemen," he says, and pulls the curtain. The map is revealed. A red string stretches from Grafton Underwood across the North Sea, across Holland, deep into Germany. The string ends at a city labeled Brunswick. 600 miles round trip, the deepest they have flown in weeks. A collective sound runs through the room. Not quite a groan, not quite a sob. Just the sound of 400 men realizing today is going to be bad. Brunswick Lacey says, "Ball-bearing plants. If we knock out these factories, we cripple German war production. Every tank needs bearings, every aircraft, every piece of machinery. This is a critical target. This is why we're here." He nods to the intelligence officer who steps forward with a pointer. "Expected enemy fighter concentration 80 to 100 aircraft, possibly more. The Luftwaffe knows we're coming. They'll throw everything they have at us, Messerschmitt 109s, Focke-Wulf 190s, the best pilots they have left." He taps the map at various points. Flak concentration heavy, 88mm guns surrounding the target. You'll fly through the flak field at bombing altitude. Expect it to be thick. Another tap. Your fighter escort P-47 Thunderbolts can accompany you to the German border. After that, you're on your own. The distance is too great. They don't have the range. From the border to the target and back, you'll have no friendly fighters. Approximately 90 minutes unescorted. He pauses, lets them absorb this. Altitude 28,000 to 30,000 feet. Temperature at altitude 55 to 60 degrees below zero. Flight time approximately 8 hours, wheels up to wheels down. More numbers, more statistics. Bomb loads, formation positions, radio frequencies, assembly points, emergency procedures. The intelligence officer talks for 15 minutes. The men listen. Some take notes. Most just sit there, faces blank, processing the information in the way you process information when you know it might be the last briefing you ever attend. Finally, the weather officer. Cloud cover over the target at 12,000 feet. You'll be above it. Visibility unlimited, which means the Germans will see you coming from 50 miles away. Expected losses, someone asks. The question everyone wants to ask, but nobody wants to hear answered. Lacey looks at the man who asked. Looks at all of them. 10 to 15%, he says quietly. Maybe more if the fighters are aggressive. The math is simple. 40 crews in the room, 400 men, 10 to 15% loss means 4 to 6 aircraft won't come back. 40 to 60 men dead or missing or captured. 1 in 10 men in this room will not be here tonight. The chaplain stands. Captain O'Brien, Catholic priest. He served in the First War. He knows what these men are about to face. Let us pray. 400 men bow their heads. Lord, watch over these men as they fly into the valley of the shadow of death. Give them courage in the face of danger. Give them strength when they are afraid. Bring them home safely to the families who love them. And if any should fall, today receive them into your eternal arms. Forgive them their sins. Grant them peace. Amen. Amen. 400 voices echo. Breakfast at 0700, Lacey says. Pre-flight at 0830. Engines start at 0915. Takeoff at 0945. Dismissed. The men file out. Nobody speaks. What is there to say? Elmer Richardson walks back to the barracks with his crew. The sun is rising, pink light on the horizon. It will be a clear day, good flying weather, good bombing weather, good dying weather. He thinks about his mother in Topeka. She will be asleep right now. It's midnight there. She doesn't know that today her son will fly into the most dangerous mission of his life. She doesn't know that the letter he sent her 3 days ago, the one about the cold, will be the last letter she ever receives from him. She doesn't know any of this, and that is a mercy. Margaret will be asleep too, dreaming of a future that includes him in it, a wedding, children, growing old together, a future that depends entirely on the next 8 hours, on luck and skill and whether a German fighter's bullets find their mark or miss by inches. He doesn't let himself think about it. Thinking about the future is dangerous. The only thing that matters is the mission. The Dharma, do your duty. That's what his father said. Do your duty and come home. Simple. Not easy, but simple. Oh, 900 hours. Final pre-flight checks. Ground crew swarms over ruthless Ruth like ants on a carcass. Checking engines. Checking control surfaces. Checking fuel lines and hydraulic lines and electrical systems. Loading bombs into the bay. 65,000 pounds of aircraft and fuel and bombs and men and about to challenge gravity and luck and the entire German Air Force. Elmer stands beside the tail section. His station, his responsibility. He runs through his mental checklist. Guns, ammunition, oxygen, heated suit, emergency equipment, each item confirmed and checked again. The ground crew chief approaches. Sergeant Miller, 40 years old. Too old to fly, but he knows these aircraft better than anyone. He has been working on B-17s since before Pearl Harbor. He knows every rivet, every wire, every system. Richardson, he calls. Elmer turns. Miller points at the tail section. I need to tell you something. The electrical system on your position has been acting funny. Flickering, intermittent connection. We traced it down, tightened everything, but keep an eye on it. If your heated suit flickers or your intercom cuts out, let the pilot know immediately. Don't ignore it, Elmer nods. Will do, Chief. Thanks. Miller slaps the fuselage. She's good to go. Bring her home safe. Will do. Miller walks away, moves on to the next aircraft, the next crew, the next set of problems and solutions and warnings that might save lives or might not matter at all. Elmer doesn't think much about the warning. Electrical systems flicker all the time. Battle damage, vibration, temperature changes. It's normal. The ground crews are careful. They fixed it. It will be fine. He doesn't know that this warning is the most important thing anyone will ever tell him. He doesn't know that in 3 hours that electrical system will fail completely, that his heated suit will go dead at 58 degrees below zero, that his oxygen will be cut off at 30,000 feet, that he will die because of this malfunction that Sergeant Miller just warned him about. But right now, standing in the weak February sun with his crew around him and the mission ahead, Elmer Richardson is 22 years old and alive and doing his duty. That's all that matters. 11:30 hours. Time to board. The crew gathers at the waist door. 10 men, each one carrying 40 pounds of gear. Parachute, Mae West, flak vest, oxygen mask, leather helmet, gloves. They look like deep sea divers preparing to descend into the ocean. In a way they are. They are about to dive into an ocean of air 30,000 feet deep, and the pressure will kill you just as surely as water. Daniels goes first, climbs through the door, makes his way forward to the cockpit. Parker follows. Mitchell, Weber, the officers take their positions. Then the enlisted men. Kowalski hauls himself up, moves to his station at the top turret. Cole to the radio room. Jensen to the ball turret, though he won't get in until they're airborne. Morrison and Duca to the waist guns. Elmer goes last, always last, climbs into the aircraft. The interior smells like oil and metal and the faint chemical tang of oxygen. He crawls aft through the fuselage. 35 feet. The tunnel is narrow. 26 inches in diameter. Oxygen bottles and ammunition cans line the walls. He passes the waist position where Morrison and Duca are checking their guns. Passes the ball turret mount where Jensen will spend the mission curled in a tiny sphere. Reaches the tail. The tail compartment is exactly as he left it after the last mission. 4 feet wide, 3 feet tall, a seat, 2 guns, windows on 3 sides. The plexiglass is clean. Ground crew polished it. Clear view of the sky behind and below. Clear view of everything trying to kill you. He settles into the seat, begins his checks. Heated suit plug, inserts it into the electrical socket. Green light, system active. Warmth spreads through the suit. Not much, but enough to keep you alive at 60 below. He tests the connection, wiggles it. Solid. No flicker. Sergeant Miller was right. They fixed it. Oxygen mask connects to the main oxygen line. Flow indicator turns green. He breathes, smooth flow, good pressure. The air tastes metallic but clean. Intercom, plugs in his helmet, tests the connection. Tail gunner check in. Daniels' voice in his ears. Roger tail. All positions check in. One by one on each station reports. Co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, engineer, radio, ball turret. Waist left, waist right, tail, all present, all ready. Ammunition. Elmer loads the belts into both guns, 400 rounds per gun, 800 total. The belt feeds smoothly through the mechanism. He racks the charging handles. Both guns ready to fire. The metal is cold under his gloves. Even inside the aircraft, even with the weak sun coming through the plexiglass, everything is cold. Always cold. He checks his emergency equipment. Small oxygen bottle clipped to his chest. 10-minute supply if the main line fails. Parachute, first aid kit, or canteen. Survival gear that will do him no good if he gets hit at altitude, but makes everyone feel better to carry. Last, he takes out Margaret's letter. Reads it one more time. The words are familiar now, comforting, like a prayer. Come home safe, I love you. I'm counting the days. He folds the letter, puts it back in his pocket, feels the blue scarf next to it, touches the St. Christopher medal under his shirt, his ritual complete. All positions, Daniel says over the intercom. Stand by for engine start. The first engine coughs, catches, roars to life. Then the second, third, fourth, four Wright 1820 engines, 4,800 horsepower total. The aircraft shakes, everything rattles. The sound is enormous even through the leather helmet. Elmer looks out through the plexiglass. Behind them, other bombers are starting engines. 36 aircraft from the 384th Bomb Group. All starting, all preparing, all about to fly to Brunswick. Kowalski's voice comes through the intercom. Richardson, you good back there, all set. Elmer replies, see you in 8 hours. Stay warm, kid. Always do. They will never speak again. The last words Kowalski will ever hear from Elmer Richardson are, always do. 2 hours and 13 minutes from now, Elmer will be dead. But his crewmates won't know. They will fly for 4 more hours with his frozen body in the tail. They will land. They will climb out. They will count heads. And only then will they discover what happened. But that is still ahead. Right now, engines are running. The mission is beginning. And Elmer Richardson is alive and doing his duty and heading into the sky above Europe, where so many men have died before him and where he will join them before the day is done. The tower clears them for takeoff. Daniels advances the throttles. Ruthless Ruth begins to roll. 11:58. The engines roar to full power. 4,800 horses pulling 65,000 pounds of metal and fuel and bombs, and men down a runway that suddenly seems too short. The tail wheel lifts. The nose lifts. Airspeed rising. 100 miles per hour, 110, 120. The main gear separates from concrete. Airborne. Gear up, Daniels orders. Parker pulls the lever. The wheels retract with a hydraulic whine. Flaps up. Climb power. The bomber claws for altitude. Formation assembly takes 20 minutes. 36 aircraft spiraling upward over England, finding their positions in the combat box. Ruthless Ruth slots into the lead squadron, middle position. Good spot. Protected by aircraft on all sides. As protected as you can be when you're flying into the most heavily defended airspace in Europe. They climb through 5,000 feet, 10,000, 15,000. The temperature drops steadily. 0 at 10,000, 20 below at 15, 30 below at 20. The heated suit keeps Elmer warm enough. His toes go numb. His fingers ache. But this is normal. This is every mission. At 28,000 feet, they level off. Formation tight now, each bomber 50 feet from the next. Close enough to see faces in other aircraft. Close enough to provide mutual defensive fire. Close enough to see men die. Oxygen flow is strong, heated suit working perfectly. Both guns test fired. 3-round burst from each. The sound is deafening even through the helmet. Brass casings eject tumble away into the slipstream. Both guns functioning. Elmer scans the sky behind them. Empty blue. Contrails streaming from 36 bombers. The formation looks beautiful from back here. Powerful. Invincible. It's an illusion. These aluminum boxes are fragile. A single 20-millimeter shell in the right place can turn a bomber into a falling coffin. 12:30 p.m., they cross the English coast. Last friendly territory, Mitchell announces over the intercom. Next stop, Brunswick. Someone coughs. Someone else mutters a prayer. The intercom goes quiet. Elmer watches England disappear behind them. Green fields, gray towns, the white cliffs fading into mist. It's the last time he will see England. He doesn't know this yet. He thinks he's coming back. They all think they're coming back. The North Sea stretches below. Gray water, white caps, a fishing boat impossibly small. Then the Dutch coast, enemy territory now. This is where it becomes real. 12:50 p.m. Elmer spots them first. His training kicks in. Visual search pattern. Left to right, high to low. Look for movement. Look for specks against clouds. Look for sunlight glinting on metal. There. 5 o'clock low, rising fast. Fighters he calls into the intercom. 6 o'clock low, climbing fast. The formation tightens. Every gunner swivels toward the threat. Elmer counts. 10, 15, 20 aircraft, maybe more behind them. Messerschmitt 109s and Focke-Wulf 190s. The dark crosses on their wings are clearly visible now. Here they come, Daniel says. His voice is steady, calm. Everyone stays sharp. The German fighters split into two groups. Half attack from below and behind. Half swing wide to hit from the flanks. Classic tactics. Divide the defensive fire. Overwhelm the gunners. The first Messerschmitt comes in from directly astern. 400 yards. 300. Elmer centers him in the gun sight. Leads the target. Squeezes both triggers. The guns roar. 50 caliber rounds at 800 per minute per gun. Tracers arc out every fifth round, burning bright. The stream of fire converges on the Messerschmitt. Hits. Flash of metal. The fighter's canopy shatters. The Messerschmitt rolls left, trailing smoke falling away. Got him, Elmer thinks. That's one. But 3 more replace it immediately. They come in line astern, firing. White streaks of 20-millimeter cannon fire slash past Ruthless Ruth's tail. Some rounds miss by inches. Some hit. Metal tears. Something pings off the tail structure. Elmer swings his guns to the next target. Fires. Misses. Leads more. Fires again. This one staggers. Not a kill, but damaged. The fighter breaks off limping. The sky is full of aircraft now. Bombers, fighters, contrails, tracer fire, black puffs of flak from German anti-aircraft positions on the ground. The noise is constant. Engine roar, gunfire, explosions, men shouting over the intercom. Controlled chaos. A B-17 300 yards behind them takes a direct hit. The number 2 engine explodes in an orange fireball. The bomber drops out of formation, still flying but losing altitude fast. Elmer watches, counts parachutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 more men are still inside, either dead or unable to get out. The bomber spirals down, trailing fire. At 15,000 feet, the whole aircraft disintegrates. A brief flash, pieces tumbling. Gone. 10 men. 10 men who woke up this morning. Ate breakfast, checked their equipment, thought they were coming home. 1:12 p.m., the moment that changes everything. Elmer is tracking a Messerschmitt at 5 o'clock when movement catches his eye. 4 o'clock high, diving fast, Focke-Wulf 190. He swings his guns up. The hydraulic traverse is sluggish. Too cold. The system is half frozen. His muscles strain against the resistance. Not fast enough. The Focke-Wulf has 4 20-millimeter cannons. All 4 fire simultaneously. The range is 200 yards. Point blank. 4 shells converge on Ruthless Ruth's tail section. The first shell punches through the left side plexiglass. Enters at an angle, exits through the right side, misses Elmer by 3 feet. Glass explodes inward. Fragments slash across his flight suit. The compartment is suddenly open to the outside air. 58 degrees below zero. The wind screams through the opening. The second shell hits the oxygen distribution manifold. 2 inches of brass tubing. The shell cuts through it like scissors through thread. The main oxygen line severs completely. The pressure drops instantly. The flow indicator on Elmer's mask goes from green to nothing. The third shell strikes the electrical junction box. The box is mounted on the right side bulkhead. Inside are 20 circuits. Power for the heated suit. Power for the intercom. Power for position lights. The shell detonates inside the box. Every circuit fails simultaneously. The heated suit goes dead. The intercom goes silent. The only light in the compartment is what comes through the shattered plexiglass. The fourth shell hits the hydraulic reservoir, the small tank that holds the fluid for the gun traverse system. The shell punctures the tank. Hydraulic fluid sprays out. The fluid freezes instantly in the -58-degree air. The hydraulic pressure drops to zero. The guns will no longer traverse on power. Manual only now. 4 shells, 2 seconds, everything changes. Elmer realizes what happened immediately. His training kicks in. The checklist runs through his mind automatically. Oxygen failed. He can't breathe. His mask is connected to a severed line. He reaches for the emergency oxygen bottle clipped to his chest. Yellow cylinder. Small. He twists the valve open, presses the mask against his face. Breathes. The oxygen flows, pure and cold and metallic tasting. The flow is good. The gauge on the bottle shows full. 10 minutes of oxygen. Heat failed. The heated suit is dead. He can feel it immediately. The warmth that was there 30 seconds ago is gone. The temperature in the tail compartment is now the same as outside, -58 degrees Fahrenheit, the kind of cold that kills exposed skin in 90 seconds. He's wearing the suit, but without power, it's just cloth. Insulation, but no active heat. He has maybe 30 minutes before hypothermia becomes critical. Maybe less. Intercom failed. He tries to call the pilot, presses the talk switch. Skipper, I'm hit. Tail section damaged. Lost oxygen and heat. Nothing. The intercom is completely dead. No static, no carrier tone, nothing. He tries again. Skipper, can you hear me? Silence. The crew has no idea what just happened. They're fighting their own battle. Fighters attacking from every angle, flak bursting around them. Daniels is flying the aircraft. Parker is watching engine instruments. Mitchell is navigating. Weber is preparing for the bomb run. Kowalski is firing his top turret. Cole is on the radio. Jensen is spinning in the ball turret. Morrison and Duca are at the waist guns. Everyone is occupied. Everyone assumes the tail guns are still in action because they don't hear otherwise. Elmer looks at the emergency oxygen gauge. 10 minutes. After that, he'll be breathing cabin air. At 28,000 feet, cabin air has about 7% oxygen. Sea level is 21%. You can survive on 7% for maybe 2 minutes before you pass out, 5 minutes before you die, 10 minutes of oxygen, 30 minutes before hypothermia kills him. Either way, he's on a clock now. He makes his decision in about 5 seconds. The same decision he's been trained to make. The same decision every tail gunner makes. Do your job until you can't. The guns. He tests them. Manual traverse. He pushes on the control yoke. The guns move, but it takes all his strength. Without hydraulics, he's fighting the weight of the guns and the airstream and the frozen mechanisms. But they move. Slowly. But they move. He scans for targets. There. 5 o'clock low. Messerschmitt 109 climbing toward the formation. Elmer aims. Compensates for the lack of hydraulic assist. Fires. Both guns work. The recoil hammers his shoulders. Brass casings eject streaming past his face in the hurricane wind from the shattered plexiglass. The Messerschmitt takes hits. Engine cowling. Wing root. The fighter rolls away trailing coolant. Damaged. Maybe a kill. Elmer doesn't wait to confirm. Swings his guns toward the next target. His fingers are already going numb. The wind chill at 200 miles per hour and minus 58 degrees is beyond human calculation. His gloves are insulated, but not heated. Without the heated suit, his hands lose feeling rapidly. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. His fingers feel thick, clumsy, like they belong to someone else. Another fighter. Focke-Wulf 190 from 7 o'clock. Elmer traverses manually. So slow, the fighter is faster, fires first. 20-millimeter shells walk across the tail section. One hits the starboard gun. The gun doesn't explode, but the receiver jams. Frozen metal and a bent feed mechanism. The gun is inoperable. Elmer fires the port gun. Shorter bursts now, conserving ammunition, trying to protect the one gun he has left. The Focke-Wulf breaks off. Not hit, just repositioning for another pass. The ammunition counter shows 200 rounds remaining in the port gun, 0 in the starboard gun. The emergency oxygen gauge shows 7 minutes remaining. His hands are completely numb now. He can see them moving on the gun controls but can't feel them. His feet are numb. His face is numb. The cold is everywhere. 1:20 p.m. The formation reaches Brunswick. Flak starts immediately. German 88-millimeter anti-aircraft guns. Radar controlled. Accurate. The shells burst at 28,000 feet. Black clouds of smoke and shrapnel. Each burst sounds like a thunderclap. Shrapnel pings off the aircraft. Ruthless, Ruth shudders with each near miss. Bomb run, Mitchell announces over the intercom. Elmer doesn't hear it. His intercom is dead, but he can tell from the aircraft's behavior. Flying straight and level now. No evasive maneuvers. The bombardier has control. This is the most dangerous part of any mission. 5 minutes of flying straight while flak bursts around you, and you can't take evasive action because the bombardier needs stability to aim. 1:24 p.m. Elmer feels the aircraft lurch upward slightly. Bombs away. 3,600 pounds of high explosive just left the bomb bay. The aircraft is suddenly lighter, more nimble. Daniels Banks left immediately, beginning the turn for home. The fighters press their attack. They know the bombers are vulnerable during the turn. Elmer swings his one working gun toward a Messerschmitt. Fires. The gun jams after 15 rounds. The cold. The metal has contracted. The feed mechanism binds. He needs to clear it. He pulls the charging handle, needs both hands. The metal is frozen. His gloves stick to it. He pulls. The charging handle doesn't move. He pulls harder, puts his shoulder into it. The handle moves an inch, another inch. The round that was jammed pops out. He releases the handle, tests the gun, fires. It works. But his gloves are stuck to the charging handle. He pulls his hands away. The glove material tears. Under the gloves, his skin has frozen to the metal. When he pulls his hands by, his skin comes off his fingers, strips of skin adhering to the frozen metal. Blood wells up immediately, then freezes. His fingers are bleeding and frozen simultaneously. He doesn't feel pain. His hands are too numb for pain. He just sees the blood, sees the raw flesh, knows this is bad, knows frostbite has set in. He puts his gloves back on over the wounds. No choice. Can't operate the gun with bare hands. The blood soaks through the glove material, then freezes. The emergency oxygen gauge shows 4 minutes. 1:26 p.m. A Messerschmitt comes in from dead astern. Elmer centers him in the gun sight, fires the last of his ammunition. 50 rounds. The stream of tracers converges on the fighter. Hits. The Messerschmitt's canopy explodes. The fighter pitches up violently, stalls, falls away, spinning. That's his 5th confirmed kill. But he'll never know it. There's no one to verify. No one saw. The intercom is dead. As far as the crew knows, the tailguns have been silent for 15 minutes. The ammunition counter reads 0. Both guns are empty. He's out of ammunition. 1:28 p.m. Daniels tries the intercom again. Tail gunner status report. Elmer hears nothing. The intercom is dead. Daniels hears nothing in return. Assumes battle damage to the intercom. Happens all the time. Assumes Richardson is conserving oxygen. Maintaining radio silence. Still doing his job. Richardson, you copy silence. The oxygen gauge reads 2 minutes. Elmer slumps in his seat. Unarmed now. No ammunition. One gun jammed. One gun empty. No way to tell anyone. No way to call for help. The emergency oxygen is nearly gone. When it runs out, he'll have to breathe cabin air. That will kill him in 5 minutes. The cold will kill him in maybe 20 minutes. Either way, he's dying. His body is shaking violently, shivering. Stage 1 hypothermia. The shivering is actually good. It means his body is still fighting, still trying to generate heat, but he can feel it taking effort. Each shiver burns energy, energy he doesn't have. 1:30 p.m., the emergency oxygen runs out. The gauge needle drops to 0. The flow stops. He takes one last breath of pure oxygen. Then it's gone. He disconnects the emergency bottle. Useless now. He's breathing cabin air through his mask. The air feels thin, not enough. He breathes faster, trying to get more oxygen, but there isn't more. 7% oxygen at 28,000 feet. Not enough to sustain consciousness for long. The hypoxia begins immediately, just like in the altitude chamber during training. But this isn't training, this is real, and nobody's going to put his mask back on for him. Minute 1 is saying his vision begins to narrow. Tunnel vision, the edges go dark. The center is still clear, but the periphery is fading. He can see the sky behind the aircraft, can see other bombers in formation, but the edges are going black. Minute 2, the euphoria starts, the fear fades, everything seems fine, better than fine, wonderful. The cold doesn't hurt anymore. His hands don't hurt, nothing hurts. He feels warm, not actually warm. His core temperature is dropping below 95 degrees, but his brain, starved of oxygen, tells him he's warm, comfortable, safe. Minute 3. His thinking becomes confused. He knows he should do something, call someone, tell someone, but he can't remember who to call, can't remember why it matters. The controls are in his hands. That seems right. That seems like where they should be. He's doing his job. He's at his post. Everything is fine. Minute 4, the hallucinations begin. Not seeing things that aren't there, but seeing things that are there and thinking they're somewhere else. The sky behind the aircraft. It's not the sky over Germany. It's the sky over Kansas. August sky, hot, blue. He's in the garage, working. The heat. He can feel the heat. Kansas heat. The smell of motor oil. The sound of his father's voice. That's my boy. He reaches for something, a wrench. His father is handing him a wrench. He tries to take it. His hand closes on the frozen metal gun control instead. The hallucination shatters. For a moment, he's back in the tail, cold, dying. But then the hypoxia pulls him under again. Minute 5, his core temperature drops below 90 degrees. The shivering stops. This is the sign he wrote about in his notebook during training. The sign that means you're dying. When you stop shivering, that your body has given up trying to generate heat. You have maybe 10 minutes after that. But Elmer doesn't notice he stopped shivering. He doesn't notice anything is wrong. The hypoxia makes everything seem fine, better than fine. Minute 6, another hallucination, stronger this time. More real, he's not in the aircraft anymore. He's on Margaret's porch. Evening, summer evening, crickets, fireflies. She's wearing the yellow dress, the first dress, the punch-spilling dress. She's smiling at him. "Come home safe," she says. "I love you. I'm counting the days. I'm trying, Maggie," he tries to say, but his vocal cords don't work right. The words come out slurred, confused. "I'm trying. I'm so tired." "Then rest," she says, "just for a minute. Just close your eyes. That seems reasonable." He's so tired. It's been 8 hours in this seat. No, not 8 hours, 2 hours. But it feels like forever, closing his eyes for a minute. That makes sense. Minute 7, his breathing becomes shallow. 6 breaths per minute. Normal is 16. His heart rate slows, 40 beats per minute. Normal is 70. His body is shutting down, conserving what little energy remains. But there isn't enough. There will never be enough. The third hallucination is the strongest. The last one, he's not on the porch anymore. He's in his mother's kitchen. Pot roast, potatoes, carrots. The smell fills the room. Warmth. Real warmth this time. Not the false warmth of hypoxia. The warmth of home. His mother is there, her face, her smile. "Elmer," she says, "dinner's ready. Come sit down." He's not cold anymore. The pain is gone. The fear is gone. Everything bad is gone. He's home, he's safe, he's warm. His eyes close. 1:43 p.m., February 3rd, 1944. Staff Sergeant Elmer G. Richardson, 22 years old, tail gunner from Topeka, Kansas, dies of combined hypoxia and hypothermia at 28,000 feet over Germany. Time from hit to death, 31 minutes. Position at death, seated at his guns, hands on the controls, eyes half open, facing aft, still at his post, expression peaceful, concentrating, like he's still aiming, still tracking targets, still doing his job. Cause of death: oxygen system failure combined with electrical system failure. Hypoxia onset at 1:30 p.m. Loss of consciousness at 1:37 p.m. Death at 1:43 p.m. Nobody knows. The crew continues flying. Daniels flies the aircraft. Parker monitors instruments. Mitchell navigates. Weber checks bomb damage assessment. Kowalski scans for fighters. Cole maintains radio silence. Jensen rotates in the ball turret. Morrison and Duca watch the waist positions. Everyone doing their job. Nobody knows that 35 feet behind them, their tail gunner is dead. Has been dead for 6 minutes. Will be dead for 4 more hours while they fly home. The formation turns northwest, heading for the German border, heading for the fighter escort, heading for safety. 203 bombers remain. 14 were shot down over the target. 140 men dead or captured. The price of Brunswick. Ruthless Ruth flies on 3 engines. Number 4 lost oil pressure over the target and had to be shut down. But 3 engines are enough. The aircraft is damaged but airborne. The hydraulic system is failing but still functional. The fuel is leaking but not critically. They're hurt but flying. They can make it home. Except for Elmer, he can't make it home. He's already gone. 1:50 p.m. The German fighters make their last pass. A final attack before the American fighter escort arrives. Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs diving through the formation. Firing. Breaking off. Climbing for another pass. The crew of Ruthless Ruth fights back. Kowalski fires his top turret. Jensen spins the ball turret. Morrison and Duca man the waist guns. Tracers arc out from 5 positions, but not 6. The tail guns are silent. Have been silent for 40 minutes. Daniels notices. Keys his intercom. Tail gunner, you still with us? Silence, Richardson. Nothing. He looks at Parker. Intercom still out to the tail. Battle damage. Parker nods. Makes sense. Happens all the time. Daniels makes an assumption, a reasonable assumption based on experience and training in 100 combat missions. Richardson is alive back there. Richardson is conserving oxygen. Richardson is maintaining his position. Richardson always does his job. The tail guns are silent because the intercom is out, because the ammunition is exhausted, because there are no targets. Not because Richardson is dead. The assumption is wrong. But Daniels won't know that for 3 more hours. 2:15 p.m. The P-47 Thunderbolts arrive. 12 fighters with white stars on their wings. The German fighters break off immediately. They don't have the fuel to fight American escorts. They turn east, heading home. The bomber stream continues west. Protected now. Safe now. The formation relaxes slightly. Men light cigarettes even though it's against regulations. Men pray. Men cry. Men laugh. The reactions vary, but everyone feels it. The loosening of tension. The realization that they might actually survive this mission. Ruthless Ruth flies on. 3 engines. Damaged. But flying. In the tail, Elmer Richardson has been dead for 32 minutes. His body is starting to freeze. The temperature in the tail compartment is still minus 58 degrees. The wind still screams through the shattered plexiglass. His body temperature is dropping below 70 degrees. Ice crystals are forming on his flight jacket. Frost is accumulating on his oxygen mask. His hands are frozen to the gun controls. His body is rigid, fixed in place, frozen at his post. 2:30 p.m. Over the North Sea. The formation descends. 28,000 feet, 25,000, 20,000. The temperature rises. Minus 58 becomes minus 40, then minus 20. The aircraft are warmer. The men are warmer. Everything is getting warmer, except in the tail of Ruthless Ruth. The shattered plexiglass admits a constant hurricane of frozen air. Elmer's body continues to freeze. The ice crystals spread. His flight jacket becomes white with frost. His face, his hands, everything exposed to the air becomes encased in ice. Daniels tries the intercom again. Richardson's status report. The question goes into the dead intercom system. Goes nowhere, receives no answer because there is no one alive to answer, Jensen Daniels says. Can you see Richardson from ball turret negative, Jensen replies. Can't see back there from here. Fuselage blocks the view. Morrison, can you see the tail from waist negative, Morrison says. Would have to crawl back through the tunnel. Can't see from here. Daniels considers. They're 40 minutes from England. 40 minutes from landing. Richardson is probably fine. Probably just conserving oxygen like he's supposed to. Probably maintaining position. Doing his job like he always does. 40 more minutes, then they'll know for sure. Daniels doesn't order anyone to check on Richardson. This is not negligence. This is normal crew dynamics. The tail gunner is isolated, always isolated. The intercom goes out frequently. You trust your crew to do their jobs. You don't send men crawling through the aircraft in flight unless there's an emergency. As far as Daniels knows, there's no emergency. Richardson hasn't called for help. Richardson hasn't bailed out. Therefore, Richardson must be fine. The assumption is wrong, has been wrong for 47 minutes. Will continue to be wrong for 3 more hours. 3:15 p.m., English coast visible ahead. Home, England. Not home. Not Kansas or Ohio or Pennsylvania or New York or Minnesota or Illinois or Texas or Oregon or Wisconsin. But home enough. Friendly territory. Allied territory. Safety. The formation crosses the coast. Descends to 10,000 feet. 8,000. 5,000. The air gets thicker. Warmer. Easier to breathe. Some crews go off oxygen. Ruthless Ruth stays on. Regulations say stay on oxygen until you land. Daniels follows regulations. In the tail, Elmer Richardson has been dead for 92 minutes. His body is completely frozen now. Ice encases his flight jacket, his face, his hands. The frost is thick enough to see from outside the aircraft. If anyone were looking. But nobody is looking. Everyone assumes he's alive. 3:40 p.m. landing pattern at Grafton Underwood. Ruthless Ruth enters the traffic pattern. Downwind leg, base leg, final approach. Number 4 engine is dead. Number 3 is running rough. The hydraulic system is barely functioning. Landing gear comes down with a groan. One main gear indicator shows unsafe. Daniels recycles it. Comes down properly on the second try. Flaps down, 15 degrees, then 30. The aircraft settles into approach speed. 3:55 p.m., 1 mile from touchdown. Daniels calls out airspeeds. Parker confirms. 120 knots, 110, 100. The runway rushes up, 50 feet, 30, 20. Daniels flares. Too much. The aircraft balloons. He pushes forward. Corrects. The main gear touches. Bounces. Touches again. Stays down. Tail wheel touches. The bomber is down. Rolling. Daniels applies brakes carefully. Don't want to blow a tire. Not after surviving Brunswick. The aircraft slows. Turns off the active runway onto the taxiway. 400 p.m. Ruthless Ruth comes to a complete stop on the hard stand. Engine shut down. One by one, shroom. Silence. After 8 hours of continuous noise, the silence is shocking. Physical. Oppressive. Your ears ring. Your body vibrates even though nothing is vibrating. You can feel your heartbeat. Hear your breathing. Everybody out, Daniels orders. Quick as you can. Fuel leak. This thing might catch fire. Standard procedure after a rough mission. Don't stand around inside a shot-up aircraft. Get out. Get clear. Worry about equipment later. Lives first. The crew evacuates through the waste door. Daniels first. Then Parker. Mitchell. Weber. Kowalski climbs down from the top turret exits. Cole leaves the radio room. Jensen crawls out of the ball turret exits. Morrison and Duca at the waist guns both exit. 9 men drop to the tarmac. Stand there. Breathing fresh air. English air. Cold, but not minus 58. Above freezing. Almost warm compared to altitude. Daniels does what he always does. Counts his crew. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 men, he counts again. Must have miscounted. Officers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Enlisted men, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 9 men total. Someone is missing. Kowalski realizes it at the same time. His face changes. He looks at the aircraft, looks at the men standing around him, counts silently, comes up one short. Where's Richardson? His voice cuts through the wind. Nobody answers, because nobody knows. Daniels feels his stomach drop, feels ice water in his veins that has nothing to do with temperature. Richardson always exits last. Always. It's his thing. Last one in, last one out. Make sure everyone else is safe first. But he's not here. Where's Richardson? Kowalski asks again. Louder this time. The question hangs in the cold air. 9 men standing on a frozen tarmac, looking at each other, looking at the aircraft, not understanding. Because Richardson was fine. The tail guns were quiet, but that's normal when intercom is out. When ammunition is exhausted, Richardson was back there the whole flight, doing his job, like he always does. Wasn't he Daniels' turns to look at the tail section? 35 feet back, small windows of plexiglass, some shattered, some intact. He can't see inside from this angle, can't see if anyone is there. But Richardson is always there. Always, Jensen Daniels says. His voice sounds strange, hollow. Jensen Kowalski, go check the tail. The 2 men move toward the aircraft. Jensen climbs through the waist door first. He's smallest, can move through the fuselage fastest. Kowalski follows, waits at the waist position. The tunnel to the tail is too narrow for 2 men. The other 7 stand outside, waiting, not talking. The wind blows, cold February wind. Someone lights a cigarette with shaking hands. The lighter clicks 3 times before it catches. Inside the aircraft, Jensen crawls through the tunnel, 26 inches diameter. He's done this 1,000 times, training, pre-flight checks, post-flight inspections. The tunnel is familiar. But something is different now. The smell. There's a smell, cold, metallic, wrong. He reaches the tail compartment. At first, his brain doesn't process what he's seeing because what he's seeing doesn't make sense. Richardson is there, in his seat, hands on the guns, facing aft, eyes half open, like he's sleeping, like he's resting. But the frost. There's frost. On his jacket, on his mask. White frost, thick. Ice crystals sparkling in the dim light. Elmer Jensen's voice is tentative, uncertain. Hey, Elmer, we're home. Richardson doesn't move, doesn't respond, doesn't blink. Elmer louder now. Hey, man, wake up. Nothing. Jensen reaches out. His hand shakes. He doesn't want to touch, doesn't want to confirm. But he has to. His gloved hand touches Richardson's shoulder. The sensation is wrong, completely wrong. Not cold like touching someone who's chilled, cold like touching metal, like touching a pipe that's been in a freezer. Hard, rigid, unnaturally solid. Jensen pulls his hand back like he's been burned or frozen. His brain is screaming at him, telling him something his training never prepared him for. Something impossible. Oh God, he whispers. Oh Jesus Christ. He backs out of the tail compartment. Moving too fast, bangs his head on the tunnel ceiling. Doesn't notice, doesn't care. Crawls through the tunnel faster than he's ever moved. Shell casings cut his hands through his gloves. Doesn't notice. Just needs to get out, get away from that, from him, from what's back there. He emerges at the waist position. Kowalski is waiting. Takes one look at Jensen's face and knows. Knows without being told. Knows without asking. Well, Kowalski asks anyway. Because he has to, because maybe he's wrong. Maybe it's not what he thinks. He's dead, Jensen says. The words sound wrong coming out of his mouth. Like they belong to someone else. Like this is a dream. He's dead. He's been dead. He's frozen solid. Kowalski stares at him. What he's frozen to his guns, Jensen says. His voice is rising, getting louder. Ice on his uniform. His jacket. His face. He's been dead for hours. Hours. We flew home with him dead back there. They stand in the waist of the aircraft, not moving, not breathing, just standing, processing, trying to understand, trying to accept. Then Kowalski moves, climbs out through the waist door, drops to the tarmac. Jensen follows. Both men stand there, faces white, hands shaking. The other 7 men are waiting, looking at them, waiting for an answer, but not wanting the answer, because they already know. They can see it on Jensen's face, on Kowalski's face. They know he's dead, Jensen says to all of them. Richardson is dead. The words hit like a physical blow. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. Somewhere across the airfield, another bomber lands. Engines roar. Life continues. But here, right here, next to Ruthless, Ruth time has stopped. Staff Sergeant Ralph Duca starts crying, not sobbing, just tears running down his face. Silent. He makes no sound, just cries. Staff Sergeant Peter Morrison turns away, walks 5 steps, bends over, vomits onto the concrete. Once, twice, 3 times, until there's nothing left. Then dry heaves, his body rejecting what his mind just learned. Tech Sergeant Anthony Kowalski faces the aircraft, stares at it, at the tail section where his friend is frozen, where his friend died. He pulls back his fist, slams it into the fuselage. Metal booms hollow. He hits it again. His knuckles split. Blood. He doesn't notice. Hits it again. God damn it, he shouts. God damn it, God damn it. Lieutenant Robert Daniels stands very still. His face has gone pale, gray. His lips move, but no sound comes out. He's trying to speak, trying to say something, but there are no words, nothing that can be said, nothing that can make this make sense. Finally, words come. His voice is hollow, empty, dead. We didn't know. How could we know the intercom was out? We thought he was just maintaining radio silence. We thought he was alive. The sentence trails off, because it doesn't matter what they thought. They were wrong. Richardson was dead, has been dead. They flew for how long? 3 hours, 4 hours. Daniels tries to calculate. Can't. His mind won't work. Math is impossible. Everything is impossible. Elmer Richardson has been dead since 1:43 p.m. It's now 4:07 p.m., 4 hours and 24 minutes. Dead while they flew across Germany. Dead while they descended over the North Sea. Dead while they entered the landing pattern. Dead the whole time while they assumed he was fine. While they assumed he was doing his job. While they assumed wrong. An ambulance is approaching. Red cross on white. Someone called them. When who Daniels doesn't remember. Can't remember. Time is broken. Sequence is broken. Everything is broken. The ambulance stops. 2 medics jump out. Then a 3rd man. Captain Arthur Henderson, flight surgeon, 40 years old. Too old to fly but young enough to put bodies back together, or determine why they can't be put back together. What happened, Henderson asks. Daniels tries to explain. Can't find words. Points at the tail section. Our tail gunner he manages. Richardson. He's dead, Kowalski finishes. Frozen. Henderson looks at the tail section. Looks at the shattered plexiglass. The battle damage. He understands immediately. Pressure loss. Temperature loss. Oxygen loss. He's seen it before, not like this. Not frozen. But he's seen men die in aircraft. Die while their crewmates flew on unknowing. I need to examine him, Henderson says. Stay here. He climbs into the aircraft. The medics follow with a stretcher. They won't need it. Not yet. Not until later. The crew waits outside. Nobody sits. Nobody moves. They just stand. Frozen themselves. Not by temperature. By shock. By grief. By guilt. By the terrible knowledge that they flew home with their friend dead in the tail, and they didn't know. 5 minutes pass, 10. The crew is silent. The wind blows. Cold February wind. English wind. The same wind that blew through the shattered plexiglass at 200 miles per hour and froze Elmer Richardson solid. Henderson emerges, climbs down, walks to Daniels. His face is professional, neutral, but his eyes show something. Sadness. Pity. How long, Daniels asks. His voice cracks on the word long. At least 3 hours, Henderson says. Possibly 4. Hard to determine exactly. The cold preserves, but based on body temperature rigor mortis ice formation, 3 to 4 hours minimum. Daniels does the math now. His brain works now. Cruelly. 3 to 4 hours. They landed at 4 p.m. Count back 3 hours. 1 p.m., 4 hours, noon. Richardson died between noon and 1 p.m. Over Germany, over the target, while they were bombing Brunswick, while they were flying home. Dead the entire time. What killed him, Daniels asks, though he knows, already knows, can see the shattered plexiglass, can see the battle damage, knows exactly what killed him. Hypoxia combined with hypothermia, Henderson says. Professional, clinical, like he's describing a mechanical failure. Not a man, not a 22-year-old kid from Kansas who will never go home, never marry his girl, never see his mother again. Oxygen system failure. I can see the severed line. Main oxygen line to the tail position, completely cut. Electrical system failure. The junction box is destroyed, no power to the heated suit. Temperature in that compartment would have dropped to ambient immediately, minus 58 degrees at altitude. He pauses, looks at Daniels. He had an emergency oxygen bottle, 10 minutes of oxygen. He used it. The bottle is empty. After that, he would have been breathing cabin air. 7% oxygen at 28,000 feet. That gives you 2 to 3 minutes before unconsciousness. 5 minutes maximum before death. So he died of what Daniels asks, oxygen or cold. Both, Henderson says, simultaneously. The hypoxia would have killed him first, made him unconscious. Then the cold finished it, dropped his core temperature below survival threshold. But honestly, Lieutenant, it doesn't matter which one killed him first. Either way, he had no chance. Once that oxygen line was cut and that electrical system was destroyed, he was dead. Just took 30 to 40 minutes to actually die. Could we have done anything? The question comes from Kowalski. His voice is rough, broken. Could we have saved him? Henderson looks at him, looks at all of them. 9 men staring at him, wanting an answer, wanting absolution, wanting to hear that they couldn't have saved him, that there was nothing they could have done, that they're not responsible. Henderson doesn't lie to them, but he's kind. Not practically, he says. The tail section is isolated from the rest of the aircraft. You can't reach it during flight without crawling through the tunnel. You can't see into it from any other position. The intercom was destroyed in the same hit that destroyed his oxygen and electrical. There's no way you could have known. Even if you had known that there's nothing you could have done. No spare oxygen. No way to restore electrical power in flight. No way to heat the compartment. Even if you'd known immediately, you couldn't have saved him. He pauses. He died alone, Henderson says quietly. But he died doing his duty. His guns were empty. He fired every round. He stayed at his post until he physically couldn't anymore. He did his job. That counts for something. Does it, Jensen asks? Bitter, angry. Does it count if we didn't even know? Does it count if we flew home thinking he was fine and he was frozen back there, dead the whole time? Henderson has no answer for that. The practical problem becomes apparent when the medics try to extract the body. 2 medics, Johnson and Smith, climb into the tail with Henderson. They're prepared for a body. They've done body recovery before. Shot up crews, men who died at their stations. But they're not prepared for this. Richardson is frozen in seated position. His body has completely frozen. Rigor mortis plus ice. Solid, rigid, fixed. His hands are locked around the gun controls, not just holding them, locked, frozen to thems. The skin of his palms has adhered to the frozen metal. His fingers are curved around the grips, frozen in that exact position. His arms are extended, reaching forward to the guns. His legs are bent, sitting position. His back is curved, leaning slightly forward. His whole body is locked in this position. The tunnel from the tail to the waist is 26 inches in diameter. That's a fixed dimension. Can't be changed, can't be widened. It's the aircraft structure. Richardson's frozen body in seated position measures 34 inches across from elbow to elbow. His arms are extended forward. Can't be moved. Frozen solid. Simple math. 34 inches doesn't fit through 26 inches. The medics try anyway, try to pull him through the tunnel. Can't. He doesn't fit. Try to turn him? Can't. He's rigid, frozen solid. Try to bend his arms? Can't. Try to change his position? Can't. He's frozen exactly as he died, in seated position, hands on guns, and he won't fit through the tunnel. Johnson backs out, climbs down to the tarmac, finds Henderson and Daniels. "Sir," he says to Henderson, "we have a problem. We can't extract him. He doesn't fit through the access tunnel." "What do you mean he doesn't fit?" "He's frozen, sir. Seated position, arms extended, 34 inches across. The tunnel is 26 inches. He won't fit. We tried. Can't bend him. Can't turn him. He's solid." Henderson closes his eyes. This is a problem he never anticipated, never trained for, never considered. In his 3 years as a flight surgeon, he's dealt with bodies in aircraft, but never a frozen body. Never a body that won't fit through the exit. Colonel Julius Lacey arrives, base commander, 48 years old, veteran of the First War. He's seen everything, or thought he had. He climbs into the tail with Henderson, examines the situation, sees Richardson frozen at his post, sees the dimensions, understands the problem immediately. They stand in the waist of the aircraft. Daniels, Henderson, Lacey, the senior men, the decision makers. They have a dead man in the tail of an aircraft and they can't get him out. "Options," Lacey says. Henderson ticks them off. "Cut him out. Would require cutting through aircraft structure. Would destroy the tail section. This aircraft is needed for operations. The war isn't over. Can't destroy an operational bomber to recover a body." "Disassemble the tail section," Daniels suggests. "Remove panels, create a larger opening." "Would take days," Henderson says. "The body would decompose. Even in the cold, it's not frozen anymore. We're on the ground, temperature is 40 degrees. The body will thaw and decompose. Have to move it soon." "Wait for the body to thaw naturally," someone suggests. "At 40 degrees would take 12 to 24 hours, Henderson says. Then we have the decomposition problem again. Also leaving a body in an aircraft for a day is," Henderson trails off. He doesn't want to say undignified, but it is. Lacey makes the decision. The only decision that works. "We'll thaw the body enough to move it," he says. "Controlled thaw. Raise the compartment temperature. Warm the body until it's flexible enough to fit through the tunnel. Then extract it." The idea is repulsive. Deliberately thawing a frozen body, heating it like you'd heat frozen food. It feels wrong, disrespectful, obscene. But there's no alternative. The crew standing outside hears the decision. They react. "No," Duca says. "No, we can't. That's wrong. There's no other way," Lacey says. His voice is hard. "Command voice, we can't leave him there. We can't cut him out. We have to thaw him enough to move. It's the only option." Kowalski looks like he wants to hit something again. His fists clench, unclench. He turns away. Can't watch this. Can't be part of this. Daniel stands frozen himself. Not by temperature, by horror. By the realization that they're going to heat his tail gunner's frozen corpse with portable heaters so they can pull him out of the aircraft. It's nightmare logic, but it's the only logic that works. How long, Daniels asks. 3 hours, Henderson estimates. Maybe 4. Depends on how frozen he is. Have to be gradual. Too fast and we damage tissue. Have to bring his core temperature up slowly. Ground crew brings 3 Herman Nelson heaters. Large portable heaters used to warm engines in winter. They position them near the tail section, aim them through the shattered plexiglass and the access tunnel. Begin pumping warm air into the tail compartment. Target temperature 60 degrees. Warm enough to thaw the body. Not so warm it causes decomposition. The crew can't stay and watch. Can't stand there while their friend is thawed like frozen meat. Some walk away, some sit on the tarmac, some smoke cigarettes until they're sick. Daniel sits on the concrete, back against the landing gear, head in his hands. He's the pilot. He's responsible. His crew, his aircraft, his responsibility. And he didn't know Richardson was dying, didn't know he was dead. Flew for 4 hours with a corpse in the tail and didn't know. "How did I not know?" he says. To no one. To everyone. To himself. How did I not know? Kowalski sits next to him. Says nothing. There's nothing to say. They both know the answer. The intercom was out. The tails section is isolated. Battle damage. Normal in combat. They assumed Richardson was fine because they had no reason to assume otherwise. It was a reasonable assumption, based on experience, based on training, based on every mission they'd ever flown. The assumption was wrong, but it was reasonable. That's the terrible thing. They did nothing wrong, made no mistakes, followed all procedures. And Richardson died anyway. Died alone, while they flew 35 feet away and never knew. The sun sets, pink light on the horizon, then gray, then dark. The heaters pump warm air into the tail. The temperature rises, 50 degrees, 55, 60. The ice on Richardson's flight jacket begins to melt. Water runs down the leather, drips onto the floor. The frost on his face melts. His skin, gray with cold, begins to show pink again. Not life, just thaw. The blood in his veins, frozen solid, begins to liquefy. His body slowly becomes flexible. His fingers locked around the gun grips loosen slightly. Not much, but slightly. His arms extended rigid begin to bend. Just a little. His back curved, frozen softens. His legs remain bent, but the joints are no longer locked. 7:15 p.m. 3 hours and 15 minutes after landing. Henderson climbs into the tail, touches Richardson's shoulder, tests the flexibility the body gives. Not much. Still stiff with rigor mortis, but no longer frozen solid, no longer rigid ice. He can be moved now, Henderson says. The medics Johnson and Smith climb in. Henderson supervises. They work carefully, respectfully. This is still a man, still someone's son, someone's friend, someone's crewmate. They treat him with dignity. They lift Richardson from his seat. His body is still in seated position but flexible enough to maneuver. They carefully work his hands free from the gun controls. The skin comes away clean, no longer adhered to the metal. The warmth broke that bond. They maneuver him through the tail compartment, turn him, angle him, thread him through the narrow tunnel. 26 inches, barely enough. But he fits now, flexible enough now. They pull him through, slowly, carefully. Don't bang his head, don't scrape his face. Treat him like he's alive, even though he's very much dead. They emerge into the waist section, then out through the waist door. 7:50 p.m. They lay Richardson on a stretcher, cover him with a white sheet. Standard procedure. Bodies are covered. Not for the body's sake, for everyone else's sake. So you don't have to see, so you don't have to remember the face. But the crew remembers anyway. They were there. They saw. Before the sheet, they saw Elmer Richardson, frozen at his post, hands shaped like he was still gripping the guns, face still showing concentration, eyes still half open, like he was still aiming, still tracking targets, still doing his job. Even in death, Henderson had said, even frozen and thawed, he looks like he's still aiming. The chaplain has arrived. Captain O'Brien, same chaplain who blessed them this morning. Seems like a lifetime ago, was only 12 hours. He stands next to the stretcher, makes the sign of the cross, says a prayer, quiet, private, for Richardson, for the crew watching, for everyone. The medics load the stretcher into the ambulance. The doors close. Red lights. The ambulance drives away. Slowly, respectfully. No need to hurry now. The man inside is past hurrying, past everything. The crew stands at attention. Salutes, holding the salute until the ambulance disappears around a building. Red taillights fading, gone. 9 men who flew into combat together. 10 men who took off this morning. 9 men who came home. And 1 who came home dead. Frozen, unknown, discovered only after landing. They stand on the tarmac, not talking, not moving, just standing. The wind blows, cold English wind, not as cold as 30,000 feet. Not as cold as the tail of a bomber with shattered plexiglass at minus 58 degrees, but cold enough. Someone starts walking toward the barracks, then another, then all of them, moving slowly, like old men, like they aged 40 years in 12 hours. Maybe they did. The mission to Brunswick took 8 hours flying time, but it took more than that. It took something from each of them that they'll never get back. Innocence, the belief that if you did your job, everyone came home. The belief that you'd know if your friends were dying. They know different now. Now they know you can fly for hours with a dead man 35 feet away and never know. 10 p.m., Daniel sits at the small desk in his quarters. 3 crumpled drafts in the wastebasket. A bottle of whiskey on the table, half empty. The blank paper in front of him seems to accuse. He picks up the pen, starts again. Dear Mrs. Richardson, it is my duty and sad privilege to inform you that your son, Staff Sergeant Elmer G. Richardson, was killed in action on February 3, 1944, during a bombing mission over Brunswick, Germany. Elmer died at his post defending his aircraft and crew against enemy fighters. He was struck by enemy fire that damaged his oxygen and heating systems. He succumbed to his wounds while continuing to engage the enemy. Your son was an exemplary airman and gunner. He was responsible for 5 confirmed enemy aircraft destroyed. His courage, skill, and dedication to duty were in keeping with the highest traditions of the Army Air Forces. Elmer spoke often of you, his father, his sister Sarah, and his sweetheart, Margaret. He carried your letters with him on every mission. He was devoted to his family and his country. Please know that Elmer did not suffer. Medical examination indicates he lost consciousness quickly. His final moments were peaceful. He was a credit to his family, his service, and his nation. We will remember him. With deepest sympathy, First Lieutenant Robert T. Daniels, Pilot Ruthless, Ruth 384th Bombardment Group. Daniels stares at the letter. The lies are in there. The kind lies. Elmer did suffer. He froze to death alone in the tail. But Martha Richardson doesn't need to know that. She doesn't need to know they flew home with her son dead for 4 hours. She doesn't need to know they had to thaw his body to get him out. She doesn't need to know his hands were frozen to his guns. What she needs to know is that her son died doing his duty, that he was brave, that he didn't die for nothing. The rest is just pain, and she has enough pain already. Daniel seals the envelope, addresses it, Mrs. Martha Richardson, Tyler Street, Topeka, Kansas. He places it in the outgoing mail. Someone will send it. In a few days, Martha will open this letter and learn that her son is dead. But first, she'll receive the telegram. February 6, 1944, 2:30 in the afternoon, Topeka, Kansas, Western Union Messenger. Young boy on a bicycle, blue uniform. He pedals down Tyler Street, stops at the Richardson house, checks the address, walks to the door, knocks. Martha Richardson is in the kitchen, kneading bread dough. The smell of yeast and flour fills the house. She hears the knock, wipes her hands on her apron, walks to the door. She sees the boy through the window, sees the uniform, sees the envelope in his hand. She knows. Knows before she opens the door. Knows before she reads the telegram. Knows with a mother's terrible certainty that something has happened to her son. She opens the door. The boy holds out the envelope. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he says. His voice cracks. He's maybe 15 years old. He's delivered these telegrams before. He knows what they mean. Martha takes the envelope. Her hands are shaking. Flour still dusted on her fingers. She tears it open, reads. "The Secretary of War desires me to express his deep regret that your son, Staff Sergeant Elmer G. Richardson, was killed in action on 3 February in the service of his country." Letter follows. Julio, the Adjutant General. She reads it 3 times. The words don't change. Killed in action. 3 February. Your son, dead. Her legs give out. She starts to fall. The messenger boy catches her, helps her to a chair, calls for Mr. Richardson. Harold comes running from the garage, sees Martha, sees the telegram on the floor, picks it up, reads. His face doesn't change. He's been expecting this since Elmer left, since the day his son enlisted. This is what war does. This is what war has always done. It takes young men and returns them as telegrams. He kneels beside Martha, holds her. She's not crying, not yet. She's too shocked, too numb. The crying will come later. Right now, there's just nothing. An emptiness where her son used to be. Sarah comes home from school an hour later, sees her mother and father sitting at the kitchen table, sees their faces, knows without being told. She runs upstairs, locks herself in her room, doesn't come down until the next day. That evening, Martha calls Margaret. The phone rings 3 times. Margaret's mother answers. "Mrs. Collins," Martha says. Her voice is steady, controlled. "Is Margaret there?" "Yes, of course. Just a moment." Margaret comes to the phone. "Hello, Margaret, dear." Martha's voice cracks. "I need to tell you something." Margaret knows from the tone, knows the way Martha knew when she saw the messenger boy. "No," she says. "No, no, no, no. He's gone, sweetheart. Elmer's gone. Killed in action. February 3rd, over Germany." Margaret drops the phone, screams. Her mother finds her on the floor, hysterical, screaming Elmer's name over and over. It takes 3 hours to calm her. Even then, she just sits, stares at nothing, doesn't speak. She wears black for a year. Keeps all of Elmer's letters in a box under her bed. Eventually, in 1946, she marries someone else. John Anderson, good man, accountant. They have 3 children. Live a good life. But she never stops loving Elmer Richardson. When she dies in 2003, her daughter finds a box among her things. Inside Elmer's letters. The blue scarf she knitted, a dried corsage from their first date, and a note in Margaret's handwriting. "I loved 2 men in my life. I married one. But the first one I never stopped loving." February 4th, 1944. Base Memorial Service. Grafton, Underwood. 300 airmen at attention. Chaplain O'Brien delivers the eulogy. "We gather to remember Staff Sergeant Elmer G. Richardson, who gave his life in service to his nation and his crew. He died as he lived faithfully, executing his duty under impossible conditions. He stayed at his post when many men would have abandoned it. He fought until he couldn't fight anymore. And then he died quietly alone, still facing the enemy. That is the kind of man America produces. That is the kind of sacrifice we must never forget. We fly today because men like Sergeant Richardson gave everything. We live because he died. We are free because he was willing to pay the price of freedom. Let us honor his memory by carrying on his mission, by doing our duty as he did his, by never forgetting that freedom is not free and that sometimes the price is paid by 22-year-old boys from Kansas who die alone at 30,000 feet doing their jobs until their last breath. May he rest in peace. May his sacrifice never be forgotten." 4 B-17s fly over in missing man formation. 1 position empty. For Elmer, taps plays. 7 riflemen fire 3 volleys. The sound echoes across the airfield. The crew of Ruthless Ruth stands together. They don't speak. They just stand, remembering, grieving, knowing that they'll carry this with them forever. The knowledge that they flew home with their friend dead in the tail and they didn't know. March 15th, 1944. First Methodist Church, Topeka, Kansas. 400 people fill the pews. The population of Topeka is 67,000. Everyone knew the Richardson,